When a country willingly abandons a mature fighter jet that it has been working on for 15 years and has within its reach, and instead bets on a fledgling that does not even have a heart yet, what kind of shocking chess game is it plotting? Indonesia's shocking move at the June the 11th, 2025 Jakarta International Military Police and Defense Exhibition, a $10 billion order for 48 Turkish 5th-generation KAAN fighters, turns this question into reality. This paper contract not only refreshed the history of Turkey's defense exports, but also as a heavy bomb detonated in the Asia-Pacific arms landscape, its shock waves instantly shook the traditional military order. On the surface, Indonesia's choice is almost crazy. Turkey's KAAN project was launched in 2016. Although accelerated by the 2019 Turkey was kicked out of the F-35 program, the foundation is far from solid. At the time of signing, KAAN had only completed its first flight more than a year ago, with only a handful of cumulative flights, a far cry from South Korea's KF-21, which had already surpassed 1,000 flights by the end of 2024. Even more serious is the technical dilemma. The aircraft is still mired in prototypes, with the first one having just completed basic testing, and the second one facing a structural overhaul to adjust the center of gravity and reduce the weight of the design. Turkey's ambitions of 80% completion of the development and finalization of the aircraft by 2026 are fragile in the face of harsh realities: a fatal flat tail wobble in the flight control system, reliance on imported radar, and, above all, the unresolved issue of the heart of the KAAN. KAAN now uses the US F110G129 engine, so that each export needs the approval of the US government, and promised to replace the domestic TF35000 turbofan engine. The earliest possible 2032 may come out, so far still remains in the design drawing stage. Indonesia's turn at such high risk is even more bizarre. It must be known that the country since 2010, as a core partner deeply tied to South Korea's KF-21 program, bear 20% of the R&D funding. The agreement clearly access to the prototype and local production technology. However, the cooperation has been in the dust for a long time. Indonesia has not only been publicly accused by the South Korean Ministry of Defense of systematic theft of core technology, but also become a persistent problem of financial delinquency. Of the $1.4 billion payable, only $225 million has been paid, with a delinquency rate as high as 84%. Even if the share is cut from 1.6 trillion won to 600 billion won in 2024 on the grounds of financial difficulties, the payment action is still slow. More intriguing is that just 2 months before the signing of Turkey, Indonesia's Defense Minister Prabowo also publicly committed to fully promote the KF-21 cooperation. This change of track is called a precision-planned strategic raid. Peeling off the surface of the contradiction, Indonesia's decision contains 4 deep plans. First, to break free from the technology chain. KF-21, although mass production is imminent, but the radar stealth coating, active phased array radar and other core technology intellectual property rights by the South Korea Aerospace Industry Corporation is firmly in control. Indonesia only play a subcontracting role. On the contrary, the Turkish contract black and white commitment to technology sharing and co-production terms, so that Indonesia for the first time to get deeply involved in the whole industry chain of 5th-generation aircraft admission ticket, directly to the core of its National Defense Autonomy 2035 strategy. Second, to avoid political bundling. Western weapons have always been accompanied by harsh restrictions on their use. The U.S. F-35 exports are bundled with prohibited from being used in combat in specific areas clause is a foretaste of the past, and the KAAN, as a non-Western dominated system, is expected to provide more freedom of operation, which is crucial for Indonesia, where the situation in the South China Sea is sensitive. This is crucial for Indonesia, which has a sensitive situation in the South China Sea. Third, deepening the strategic balance. The signing of this contract is a classic continuation of Indonesia's multipolar betting. Previously spent $8.1 billion to order 42 French Rafale fighters, May 2025, and then threw another $3 billion to add 18. The formation of the West France plus Sino-Turkish dual-core equipment system, not only to avoid a single dependency, but also through the multilateral military trade system. Single dependency, but also through multilateral military trade to enhance regional discourse. Fourth, The cost of actuarial breakout KAAN unit price lock $208 million US, significantly lower than the F-35 full life cycle of more than $400 million US of the cost of the black hole. Tens of billions of dollars of the contract is more to offset 30% of the amount of technical deductions. The balance of 10 years of payment in installments cleverly resolved the financial predicament of the annual defense budget of only $9 billion US in Indonesia. For Turkey, this deal is worth much more than the book value. It marks Turkey's first time among the 5th-generation aircraft exporters. Elite Club is its defense industry by the US sanctions after the rebirth of the Iron Evidence technical level. The order as a powerful engine, 10 years to deliver 48 deadline, forced the Turkish Aviation Industry Corporation to accelerate the TF-35000 engine research and development. Production line expansion plan has been put on the agenda to meet the local 300 orders and overseas demand. Geopolitically, Indonesia as the first customer to become the pivot point of KAAN prying Southeast Asia. Saudi Arabia has been exposed to the procurement assessment is nearing completion. The United Arab Emirates, Azerbaijan and other countries due to the F-35 procurement constraints have also shown strong interest in the potential market capacity, or exceeded 300 units. SIPRI data show that Turkey's defense exports have surged 106% in 4 years, and its global share has jumped to 11th place. The KAAN order will boost its aerospace industry corporation's annual revenue to $2.4 billion in 2029. Making it a strategic engine for the country's economic transformation. However, under the feast, there are many crises. The U.S. veto on engine exports has always been a sword of Damocles. If the U.S. and Turkey fall out over Syria or the Kurdish issue, Indonesia's orders could be frozen in an instant. And KAAN's fewer than double-digit test flights to date contrast sharply with the KF-21's 1,200 hours of safe flights. Indonesia itself is also deep in the integration quagmire. The Air Force has been installed in the Russian Su-35, French Rafale, the US F-16 to form a three-legged race. The KAAN's accession to the logistical system will make the logistics system collapse to 4 sets of independent systems. The cost of maintenance will be replicated in the Indian Air Force, brand of all nations, fleet of 40% of the fighter aircraft perennial nightmare. South Korea said that the KF-21 project will not be affected, but the loss of Indonesia as a key partner to bear 13% of the R&D costs, and Southeast Asia demonstration users, its export unit price was forced to raise 15% to seize the strategic prospects of Malaysia. The Philippines market casts a heavy shadow. When Indonesian technicians erased the red and white flag from the KF-21's fuselage, and instead spray-painted it next to the cockpit cover of the KAAN prototype, the symbolic gesture has transcended ordinary military trade and become a bracing declaration of the Global South's quest for national defense autonomy. It reveals an irreversible trend. Emerging forces are using strategic autonomy as a spear and technical cooperation as a shield to tear a hole in the military-industrial iron curtain monopolized by the United States, Russia, and Europe. Although it will take 10 years to verify the outcome of this $10 billion gamble, the chain reaction triggered by it is already reshaping the rules, no matter whether KAAN can eventually break through the technical barrier and soar over Java. The balance of power in the world's military trade has been quietly tilted in the dark.